Back during the 90s, the arcade beat-em-up genre was in full swing. Basically, every game you could think of had an arcade beat-em-up variant, and it was a really, really, really huge market at the time. You had the likes of Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. But weirdly enough, one of the games that never came to fruition was an arcade beat-em-up for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And this new game, Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, is basically filling that exact hole. And what is this game? Well, in essence, it's a 2D side-scrolling arcade-style beat-em-up where you can play as the Power Rangers, run through the early days of, well, the series essentially, and lay the smackdown to the evil Putty Patrol and defeat the mighty evil sorceress herself, the crazy Empress, Rita Repulsa, as you try to save the fantastic city of Angel Grove. And honestly, this game is basically a love letter to both Power Rangers and that genre of gaming in general. And for the most part, it has all of the usual sort of tropes you expect to see. It has super attacks, it has an elevator sequence, it has mini-games splitting up the action. It's been a really fun time. However, it is also a bit of a flawed experience as well, which I'll get into over time. The year is 2023 and Rita Repulsa is in deep combat with the Power Rangers. And in her new robotified form, she decides to go back in time to mess with the past in order to effectively try and beat the Power Rangers when they were brand new at it. And that's basically what the whole gist of the game is. You're kind of just back in time, you're playing as the original Power Rangers as they first got into, well, power, I suppose. And you're playing through, essentially, the first bit of the story up until the Green with Evil segment of the show. And honestly, it's just really, really, really good stuff. It's just been a really great time as a Power Rangers fan. As someone who's grown up watching this show, you know, just seeing all the familiar faces again, seeing all the little nods and, like, little touches everywhere that are just littered throughout the game. This game is just an absolute love letter to the series and like I said, to arcade games in general. This is the arcade game we never got. But of course, I say that, it isn't a perfect game either. Now, while it is a brilliant love letter to the series, there are some little quirks here and there that I have had problems with the game. Mostly, to begin with, and this is something I felt immediately, the controls are pretty dang stiff for a beat-em-up. Like, I don't know, the characters just don't feel like I'm in full control. Everything feels slightly too heavy. And this can be alleviated if you pick up one of the power-ups, because there's a power-up that's really, like, basically it doubles your speed, it doubles your movement speed, doubles your attack speed, and your character feels a lot more fluid when that. Basically, that special power-up, I think, should have been the baseline movement. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, this slightly sluggish movement will probably bring the game down a hell of a lot of notches. Like, this game, as much as I do enjoy it so far, and I've completed the main story of the game completely, it's nowhere near as polished as the likes of Ninja Turtles, Splinter's Revenge, Shredder's Revenge is nowhere near that level of polish, unfortunately. But it is a brilliant love letter all the same. It's one of those games where you can pick it up, play for a little bit, and if you love your Power Rangers, you're going to have a pretty good time for the most part. You just kind of have to readjust to the controls. And there's also been some weirdness with the online play, I noticed. So, to begin with, the game had zero online whatsoever. I had to use Steam Remote Play or Parsec to be able to play this in co-op with my friend. But they have patched in an online play, which currently is not great. There's no way to save your progress, so you're basically doing a full arcade run through if you go onto your standard online mode, which is a bit of a shame. And honestly, the online, it needs a bit of work. It needs a little bit of work. It just doesn't feel like it's all there. It feels like an afterthought, to be honest. So, as this time stands, if you want to play this game with your friends, you're best using either Parsec or Steam Remote Play together. It doesn't work as well as you would like, you know? But aside from the standard side-scrolling beat-em-up sections, there are also sections where you will, from time to time, be able to ride in the Zords, and these are really, really cool. Essentially, you play as your Zord of whatever character you're playing as, which is the giant mech thing, and you run through an obstacle course, dodging shit, blowing shit up, shooting shit, and it's essentially an on-rail shooter, much like you'd find in, say, Star Fox or Panzer Dragoon or something like that, You're just on this course, you're blowing shit up. It's really great fun. It does get extremely chaotic, though. Like, there's been more than a few times where I've lost track of where I am because the screen's just covered in explosions and particle effects and So there is that one big problem about it, but otherwise the levels are really cool, and it really just kind of take me back. This feels so authentic to like what games were like back in the day, in terms of like whenever they have like these 3D action sequences, And of course, on top of that too, you are able to even pilot the Megazord from time to time and lay the smack down onto whatever villain you're fighting in that stage. And the way the Megazord really works is actually quite cool. Essentially, it's Punch-Out. The best way to put it, it's Punch-Out. So you walk forward, you punch the ever-living heck out of your opponent, dodge the stuff by pressing left or right, and I don't think there is any way to fail when you're in the Megazord. Basically, when you're on these segments of the game, you have essentially infinite health. However, each time you get hit 3 times, your control will be taken away from you and swapped over to the next player. And that's how it kind of functions, where each player takes turns controlling the Megazord to lay the smack down, if you will, which I quite like. It means that everybody gets a chance to pilot the thing, and it's a pretty cool little system they got there. It's more for style over substance. Like I said, you can't really lose these Megazord fights. No matter how much you get hit, you're still gonna just get back up and, be able to continue progressing forward. So it's a bit of an odd one that they've never made any fail states, but whatevs, it's pretty fun. And on top of that as well, you also have bike sequences, which are very similar to what you would find in, like, arcade shooters, where it has, like, this whole outrun sort of aesthetic going on, where you're riding down, you're shooting things, and it's a really good time. Like I said, though, it also gets pretty dang chaotic. There's explosions everywhere. It's absolutely nuts. It's a good fun, though. However, I do find that a lot of these levels are pretty punishing in comparison to the main beat-em-up stages. Like, the standard beat-em-up gameplay is actually pretty dang simple. There's not much to it at all. But when you seem to go into these shooter sequences, the difficulty seems to rocket up and spike for some reason, and while me and my friend have been able to basically complete the game in one sitting, these are the levels that kind of gave us the most trouble. Like, I was on the edge of my seat for one level, because, like, he had a game over, I had, like, one sliver of health left, and I was, like, fighting for my dear life at one point, which was, crazy. But yeah, overall, it is a really fun game. I recommend this game, not at the price point it's sold at, though. For a full 30 quid, this is a bit of a steep ask, I gotta be honest. You're probably better off maybe getting, like, the Soul Reaver remaster right now, to be honest, because that's, like, 25 quid, and that's 2 games, This took me, like, 2.5 hours to complete with my friend, and that's not even including technical problems that we had, so it might actually have even been less playtime than that to beat the game. It's not a long game at all. Did it in one sitting. So 30 quid, it's a bit much of an ask. There is, like, a speedrunning mode where you can run through the entire game and it times you. That's kind of cool, but it's not enough for me to justify the price, really. And then on top of that as well, you do have these unlockable little arcade games that you can do. So in between each of these missions, you can actually go to the juice bar at Angel Grove. And you can talk to the individual characters and whatnot you see throughout the course of your journey, including our two mad lads, Bulk and Skull as well, which is really, really cool. So you can get to see them. It plays the classic theme song when you talk to them. It's brilliant. But yeah, that's Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. It's not a bad game at all. It's an okay, good, decent-ish beat-em-up side-scroller, but with pretty sluggish controls. Like I said, the super power-up that speeds you up, that should be the default controls, and they need to upgrade the power-up part of it to essentially be even better. That's my theory. Basically, you control way too sluggish to begin with. You do adjust to it, but it's not perfect. And there are some, teething issues, I suppose, with the game being freshly launched. I'm hoping now the online play will get patched, and a lot of my issues and grievances I've had with the game will get sorted out over time. And again, it's a fun one. I like it. It's a jolly good time. If you're a Power Rangers fan, you're definitely probably going to get some enjoyment out of this. Just don't go into it expecting the same level of quality as Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, because that's kind of on a pedestal of its own. This game, sadly, while it does have really cool moments and really cool set pieces, it doesn't reach up to that pedestal. But it is still a pretty competent beat-em-up, and, bonus points if you're a Power Rangers fan, essentially. It's one of them situations. Definitely worth getting on a sale, though. I as it stands right now, I cannot justify a full price. I mean, some people might think it's worth it, but for me, I'm like, I don't know. I'm having a bit of buyer's remorse for the price that I paid for it, But I digress. Anywho, yeah, that's all it is for this video. So thank you all for watching, folks. Don't be sheepish, and I shall hopefully catch you all again. Bye!
My shield! Let's do it! We're close!